Meeting to order. Good afternoon. It's great to see everybody. Hope everybody had a great fall break. My name is Ed Hermes. I'm the president of the Osborne School District Governing Board. Great to see a full room again post fall break. Hope everybody had a great time. We're going to start with our land acknowledgement statement, and then we're going to go to Longview to lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance before we get into our presentation and our awards. I feel like, of course, we always do our land acknowledgement statement here in the Osborne District to acknowledge our Indigenous peoples, but today it has a special importance. Yesterday being Indigenous Peoples Day, I want to thank all of our Indigenous peoples, our students, our staff, for doing such a great job of welcoming and supporting our Indigenous folks and our Indigenous students in our district. That's one of the reasons why we do our land acknowledgement statement. So I'll go ahead and do it. Arizona is home to 22 tribal nations. The Osborne School District is situated on the homelands of the Acamel, O'odham, and Peepash people. Osborne School District recognizes the original inhabitants of these lands and recognizes they still reside throughout the city of Phoenix. We recognize their wisdom, impact, and generosity towards us. The Osborne School District is surrounded by the original Salt River canals that were constructed by the ancestral Sonoran Desert people, the Hohokam. These canals created a livelihood for the people and are still in use today. We acknowledge the modern Indigenous people that inhabited this area, as well as their Sonoran Desert ancestors, the Hohokam. We'll move on to our Pledge of Allegiance. I think, Mr. White, you might have some people, some young people here to help us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Wonderful. Go ahead.
However you want.
Oh,
You want me to hold?
I never learned.
Okay, come right next to me. We'll come over here. Here we go. We'll just do a line this way. I'll lead it, okay? Flag, you ready? All right, hands up. Here we go. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job. Thank you so much. Okay, Mr. White, don't go too far. We're going to go to you first for our Longview School presentation. Great to see you.
Yes, thank you so much, President Hermes, board members, Dr. Robert and Spirit, right? Thank you all so much for the opportunity to put a spotlight on our wonderful school, Longview. We had the opportunity to meet with you all right before break, and we shared our goals. And one of our three main goals is obviously to increase parental involvement and community participation as well. And so in doing that, we also focus on what opportunities can we create for our kids that make it more exciting to come to school. Obviously increasing attendance and all of those exciting things that kids look forward to as they're coming to school each day. And as I was reflecting on all that, I thought, you know what a great opportunity to put some of our most amazing students in front of you that ran for student council and are serving now as our student council officers. So in doing that, what I will do is share with you our supervisors from student council. It is Miss Danny Hernandez and Dr. Araceli Cesena, if they could both come up. And then I'm going to hand it over to the two of them so they can introduce the officers, but I do want to take a second to thank both of you adults so very much for all that you do. Miss Danny Hernandez is 5th grade dual language teacher, and Dr. Cesena is one of our master teachers. So on top of everything else that they're doing for kids, they're making sure that they're providing extra opportunities for our students to have the joy of being part of student council. So I will hand it over to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. I'm Miss Daniela Hernandez, proud 5th grade dual language teacher and co-student council advisor. I serve along the wonderful Dr. Cesena, and we are very proud to be coming from the Longview Elementary School. I just wanted to express my excitement for this school year. We know that we have a lot of amazing events planned and even more amazing students to share that with. So without a further ado, I would love to present the 2024 to 2025 Student Council Officers. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and announce them, and then they'll come up and just share a little bit about themselves. We have President, if you just want to raise your hand so that way they know who you are. President Samantha Plus.
Vice President Mia Sosa Sosa.
Treasurer Sofia Garcia Lucian.
And Secretary Oliver Pedrego.
If you guys want to come on up, just share a little bit about yourself.
Come on up. Very good move. Good move. Good move.
Hi, my name is Samantha.
I'm reading for Madam President. Hello, my name is Samantha Plus. Why I like about Student Council is that I like to help Ms. Hernandez and the whole school. And one event I like is the Valentine's Dance. My position is president.
Hi, my name is Mia Sosa, and the reason I wanted vice president is because I wanted to share my ideas with my student council advisor, and I'm really excited for the events, which is all the events that we have, like Trunk or Treat, Mud Day, Water Day, and more. Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice.
Hi, my name is Sofia Garcia Lucia. I am treasurer, and I joined student council to help out on events like Turkey Trot, Water Day, and other events. I am looking forward to the Trunk or Treat next week.
Hi, my name is Oliver Pedrego. I'm in the secretary position, so is Reina, as we're both co-secretaries. I joined student council because I thought I had good ideas for this school. Something I'm excited for for this year is a fundraiser idea I have.
Can't wait to hear more about it.
So once again, I would like to introduce the 24-25 student council officers at Longview Elementary School. Do I just keep going, or
Keep going, please do. The mic is yours.
my favorite?
Absolutely.
Give me a mic. Watch
It's,
out.
it's the Mr. White show here.
And I tried to explain, like, I make a lot of mistakes up here, sweetie, and I'll just say random words to help me feel better, okay? So don't
And
even sweat what you're doing.
we're really not that intimidating up
No.
here. It's okay.
So this is a wonderful opportunity, and I am so honored, obviously, to work in this district, and I love that you all have the Spread Love awards that we get to share with our staff. It's such a special opportunity and something that's very new to me in my career. So I'll just jump right in with our first recipient of one of our Spread Love awards in the specific area of growth is Miss Elisa Morales. Miss Morales, if you could please come up. Miss Morales is a fourth grade teacher, and really, I want to go further and to say she is a fourth grade professional educator. She is one of the most dynamic instructors that you will see. There is never a minute of wasted time in her classroom, and every student is supported individually and also all provided the opportunity for the path onto success. When you look at her data, you see that she provides opportunities for student growth that allows our students to get onto the trajectory that they need so they can be highly productive citizens. So I would like to just take this to celebrate you, Ms. Morales, and everything that you do for us. Thank you so much. So you get a great certificate, a little card, and a beautiful, and then one of these bags. Next up for relationships, I have Miss Katia Contreras.
Aw.
Oh my goodness. So many things I have to say about Katia, and as you could probably hear, when I just even say her name, the energy changes, your face, you feel the smile come across your face, and that's the energy she shares with all of us every single day. She works as a K3 resource, or I'm sorry, K3 reading support teacher, instructional assistant, sorry, and also a resource instructional assistant for us. So she's helping with K3 literacy and our resource students. Ms. Contreras, from the moment she stepped on our campus, has just shared so much positive energy, and she's so focused on what is best for our kids at all times. It never is about adult convenience with you. It's always about what's best for our children, as I watch you running all over campus to meet the needs of our kiddos. And with that, it also celebrates the relationships that you've built on our campus with our families, with our staff, and with our students. You're an amazing person, and thank you for building the kind relationships that you do.
Thank you so much. Really pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right. Next up, we have Miss Annette Morris. Where is Annette? Miss Morris, you know, you could say what I see on my staffing is she works in our community pre-K as an assistant, but she does way more than that for our campus. Again, another individual who knows all of our students, knows how each of them can get support and how she can support them best, always has a smile on her face, always ready for anything we throw at her, and does an amazing job with our preschool students. It's just so special to watch. You've also been an inspiration for me, so thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you, Miss Annette Morris. Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot to say. And what we're focusing on with Miss Annette Morris is the joy that she brings each and every day. So if you're ever looking for me, you might find me hiding out in pre-K. Well, I'm observing in
Yeah.
pre-K because it is where the energy is at.
Aw,
So thank you.
That's great. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, next up, I have the wonderful Penny Thompson. Miss Thompson is new to Longview this year. She is our resource teacher, and she is another individual that stepped on campus and put students first. She had some crucial conversations with me where there was a lot of times where I had to actually say, I'm not sure about that one. And it has been beautiful because she has challenged us all. She is helping us really ensure that our students have everything that they need, especially our students that have specific individual needs. And with that, she is truly making sure that there is equity throughout our entire campus, and she really supports our goal of all means all. So thank you so much for everything you do and your passion and dedication. There's that. All right, last but not least, we have the wonderful Alexis Sanchez. Alexis is new to Longview as well, but not new to the profession. She is another individual that I would identify as a professional educator. Teacher just doesn't sum it up well enough. Miss Sanchez has done a beautiful job of advocating for all of her students. She hit the ground running immediately when we had 30 kids in a room. She was like, that's all right, we're good at doing hard things. And then when I recently had, what did I do? I did a bus evacuation and a fire drill on the exact same day by accident. And my teachers were trying very hard to let their nonverbals show that everything was okay. And what I really appreciated was when you looked at me and I was kind of at wit's end and you said, hey, we're getting really good at doing hard things. So
Yes,
that meant a lot more to me than you know in
Yeah.
that moment. So I just want to thank you so much. And I watch your how you work with our students and with our families, and it's clear that it's all in your heart. I mean, you have the knowledge, you have the skills, but the heart that you bring every single day is phenomenal. And so we are focusing on you with integrity, because you approach this profession with the utmost integrity at all times. Thank you for everything you do for our kids. So if we could once again just give a round of applause to these amazing individuals. It is an honor to work for all of these individuals and the entire community at Longview, and it was an honor to have the opportunity to share with you tonight. Thank you all
Thank
so
you,
much.
Mr. White. Really appreciate it. Any questions for Mr. White? We always love it. Love the energy that everybody at Longview brings. It's just remarkable. Let's keep the energy high for the rest of the school year. I know we're just coming back from break. Let's keep it high. And so thank you guys, teachers, staff at Longview especially, for everything you do for our kids. We just really up here, we all very much appreciate it on the easy days and the hard days. We really appreciate everything you do. So keep up the great work. We're going to take a little break right now, Brendan, right? For about just a 5-minute break from the board. We know not everybody can stay with us for the whole meeting, but especially your student council members, you probably have some homework and you got school tomorrow and all this kind of stuff. So you do not need to stick around, but everyone in the public is always welcome to stay and, listen and participate in what we do as a board. So not to discourage anybody, but we are going to take a 5-minute break so folks can filter out. And also so we can get some photos, right, Brendan? Do we want our award recipients right up here? Where do you want them? Okay. Okay. So we'll break for about 5-10 minutes. Student council, if you guys can come on up, 5 minutes. Student council, come on up, and then our award recipients don't go too far. So 5-minute recess. agenda. We're going to go ahead and proceed with our consent agenda. Is there any item, let me turn to the board first, is there any item from the consent agenda that anyone would like to have a question about or pulled off from the consent agenda?
On the minutes, there's just a mistake on page 16.
Okay, and what's the mistake?
It says that the special meeting was called to order at 6 p.m. and it's right on top of our retreat, which started at 11:30 or noon.
Okay.
11:30.
11.
Yes.
Okay. So when we move to approve the consent agenda, we'll just do it with that revision of the time. Anything else? I just had a quick question on the item for the RFP for the teacher sub services. This would be, if you're following along at home or in the packet, I'm looking at page 37. And this is approval of a price modification of RFP for teacher sub services. And it says under financial, it says bond expenditure. Colleen, I was just hoping to understand that, how that relates to the bond expenditure, and maybe just explain that agenda item a bit.
No, that's just an error there.
Okay.
It's coming from maintenance and operations for our purchase sub-services.
Okay. So coming from M&O.
Mhm.
And I know I don't think we need to change anything in terms of a motion, and just more of a clarification for us. And then the change that we're approving, this is making it less expensive for the district?
Yes, so they actually, Scoot approached the district and wanted to modify the price that was approved when the board approved the RFP at the August meeting. They wanted to actually offer us a reduced price. And so we have to bring it back, even though it's like, yay, we definitely want the savings. But because it was an official award through a formal procurement, we need to make sure that the board has authorized the lower price rates.
Got it. And I think my understanding is when it comes to substitute teachers, we first go out to substitutes that kind of we know that in our kind of circle, and then if we can't find anybody, we go to this third-party Scoot. Is that how it works? Or do we go to them first? How does it work?
So it was the original award is a multiple award. So we are sourcing subs from our ESI is our primary go-to, which has the largest kind of pool of subs that have that kind of longevity and history in Osborne. And then we also have Scoot, which has now been added. And then we have one more, and I'm forgetting their name right now. I don't know if I'm wrong. Swing, thank you, Swing. And so of those three, we kind of go through ESI first, and then we go to Swing, and then kind of Scoot is like that third tier. Really focusing in on utilizing Scoot most often for those hard to fill, like special education classrooms and pieces. That's kind of where they specialize in their pool of available subs.
Okay. Got it.
Is that like not just like subs, but like contract teachers as well, or?
No, so we put this, this RFP went out specific to sub services. Those companies do offer those other components, ESI as well, like return to work retirees that we can hire back through them and other things. But this award and pricing is specific to subs, whether it's like short-term or long-term sub rates. Not, if we were to utilize them for other things, we would be using a different contract than this RFP.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? If not, I will take a motion.
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda with the edit of the time on the previous minutes.
Perfect. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Hearing none, it does pass on the consent agenda. Moving on to our call to the public. Anybody from the public today, Lisa?
No.
Okay. Public's always welcome to come on down, but hearing none, we'll move on to our board presentation for today, our award-winning and wonderful child nutrition program. Corey's going to give us a presentation. Corey, come on up.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, members of the board, and spirit of Dr. Robert, I'm excited
He's-
to.
He's just out of town, guys. He is okay. He's just out of town. Okay. He's totally fine. He just couldn't be here today.
I'm excited to talk a little bit about our program. We have a lot of cool things happening, and so hopefully this will be, we have a large social media presence, and so I didn't want to repeat that, but at the same time, there's a lot of cool things happening. So I kind of want to maybe talk a little bit more about what we're doing and why you're seeing all those things on social media. That innovation didn't exactly turn out on the screen. Sorry about that, but we're going to talk about scratch and local purchasing, scratch foods, and innovating. We don't want to be known as just another. Thank you, appreciate that, Brendan. Just another child nutrition program. So, and Nutrilicious Osborne. If you're not on social media, please follow us. So a little bit about our department. Right now we have 27 awesome team members who are dedicated. Oftentimes you'll hear, child nutrition employees be referenced as superheroes or, unsung heroes, or, you'll see them wearing capes and that kind of thing. That's because, we really feel like we make magic in the kitchen every day, Our employees show up and they work hard and they do their best out of love for the children. And so I wanted to go over a couple of things, such as new menu items, nutrition lessons. We're kind of ramping that up recently. Increased community engagement. Feeding the Future, which is a new thing that we're going to do over at OMS with a couple of the students there. Our local purchases, not just from farms, but now also ranches and some of those local ingredients that we're incorporating. And then also increased exposure for the Osborne School District, trying to do our part, as a department to get the word out there about how awesome we are and the great things that we're doing. So every picture that you're going to see on here, go back one, thank you. Every picture that you're going to see on here is our food. So, we did this wheat berry salad was from every ingredient in there was from local farms, and we did a little nutrition lesson. The Arizona Food Bank Network came to see what we were doing, and so that's what we chose. And then down in the corner, if you're at OMS and you look at the salad bar, you'll notice a lot of tahini on the vegetables. And if you have a middle schooler and they have a hard time eating vegetables, tahini is the answer. So,
Got it.
all right. So first of all, financial stewardship is something that I wanted to definitely touch on. We are, still running in the positive. We are still supporting the district with our indirect costs. We, last year we gave back almost $240,000, or a little over, I should say, $240,000 in indirect costs, which helps with salaries and, paying things like the electric bill and, maintenance requests and that kind of thing. So we're still doing that so that we're not a burden on the district at all. Our revenues and expenditures are completely separate from the school district funding that you get from the state. So we're doing our part not to be a burden. But one of the things that really helps us do that and provide that indirect cost is participation. So we without the students eating, we are not able to serve these, fresh ingredients. Some of those items that we're serving that are clean label actually cost a little bit more. There's a little bit more labor in our kitchens and that kind of thing to make scratch foods. And so we really rely on that participation so that we get the reimbursement from the state, which helps us do all those great things. CEP is another thing that we're still running. We've been on CEP, the Community Eligibility Program, for 2016 was the first time we started. It's gone through a lot of changes. Recently, there's been some positive changes that allow more districts to participate in the CEP, but we've continued. We started in 2016, and we're still doing it today. So we're really happy that we're able to provide those meals without charging our families. And we know that those meals are healthy and they're delicious. And so we're still continuing that. We just did another cycle of CEP, which means that we have another 5 years at the current rate of CEP. And so our current rate is 96% of all the meals that we serve, we get reimbursed at the free rate of 96% of the meals that we serve. So that's really good. Previous to this year, there were some changes that needed to be made, and they were actually pushed through, and so it helped us increase that percentage to continue CEP. And the 510 account, that's the account that is our food service account, and it is still running in the positive, and we're happy and thankful that we're able to do that still. So new menu items. So I wanted to kind of highlight some of the employees that we have through a video that Brandon's going to pull up here. But the first new menu item is beef picadillo. We're really excited about that menu item because that was kind of a year in the works. And not only that, but we're using a local beef to serve that beef picadillo with. And it's something that we're really proud of. And so rather than me tell you how that's made, I wanted to show you just a quick little video. So Brendan, if you could.
Hi, hello, my name is Maria Lagnino, and I'm the manager of Osborne Middle School Cafeteria. And I want to show you how we make our new product in the menu. The beef picadillo. First step, we receive our ground beef from the local ranchers from Arizona. We cooked it the day before, and now it's ready. Put it in the gas pot. Then we're gonna add the tomatoes. I have to blend it a little bit so we don't have a big chunk of tomatoes. We put the sauce and the meat. Then we're gonna put the spices in it. Salt, garlic, and white pepper. So we leave it there so the meat can get all the flavors with the sauces and the spice. Now the meat is ready. We're gonna add all the veggies. We start with red onion. The day before we roast it and chop it. Then we have the poblanos the day before also. We roast it, clean it, take out all the seeds, and chop it. This morning we roast the potatoes and the carrots. So we can add all these and leave it a little bit more so everything got together and get all the flavor. Now it's ready, and we have to portion it and add a tortilla so the kids can make a burrito or cut it in pieces and add the meat and enjoy our delicious picadillo.
Yeah.
I've probably watched it 25 times.
Yeah.
And my wife and I will sit down and we'll watch it.
Yeah, it's
You know,
beautiful.
we're really proud of that, and it's really cool to see that. Like when we say we're cooking scratch, we're actually really cooking from scratch. So, that's it's great. Maria, she's awesome. We're doing chicken tinga tacos, bean and cheese pupusas, and different variations of vegetables. These are things that the manager that you just saw there, Maria. It's their input. They're part of those decisions. Hey, what should we make? What do the kids like? What do you think that will go? We should do new this next year. And so these are real pictures of chicken tinga, and then again another salad bar picture, more vegetables with a little bit of tahini on them. All right, and then nutrition education. So this is something that we've also kind of ramped up this year. We have a contractor that's working with us. She's a chef and a dietitian, and so I asked her to go to the classrooms and really kind of connect with the students. We're hoping to encourage healthy habits and maybe help the students understand how they can eat good, nutritious foods that still taste good. And so, she's been in the classrooms trying to do that. Some stats this year, she's had 50 nutrition classes, 24 classes on eating local, 5 schools she's been in doing these nutrition ed classes, 26 different classrooms, and about 600 students is the number that she's come into contact with for these classes. So we're really excited. That's a picture of one of the snacks that the students are kind of put together and got to taste. A lot of them say it's good, and a lot of them don't like it. Just depends on the day and in the classroom. But we're really happy that she's out there doing that and getting in the classrooms. The next thing, community engagement. That's another thing that we also wanted to kind of ramp up too. Community engagement. We feel like it's important for our families and our community to know what we're doing and to interact with them, and also for us to maybe reach out to them and help them live healthier lives in a way. So that's where the Blue Zone series is. It's a 5-part series, and again, our contractor Teresa is teaching that. Families are encouraged, so we're in the classrooms doing nutrition ed, but we also want that to continue at home. And so we thought that this would be a good way for that to maybe incorporate the parents as well, as kids are learning about nutrition, and hopefully, have an impact in their house. Feeding the Future. That's I went backwards. Sorry, Brendan. Feeding the Future is an event that we are going to do this year. It's put on by the Blue Watermelon Project. They have a contest, essentially, where they bring in elementary students, middle school students, and high school students. And these teams compete against one another to come up with the best recipe, essentially. So we are competing this year in the Feeding the Future event in January out at the farm at South Mountain. We're creating a recipe. 2 OMS students are going to help us create that, and then that recipe will then be a part of our program, our breakfast program, when we're all done with it. It's a really cool thing to do. They're going to work with local chefs. So we have a chef from the Sprout stores who's going part of our team, and then another chef who is a restaurant owner is also going to be a part of that team.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really neat. It's good, for the kids to be able to see what kind of career that could be if that's something that they chose. There is a little bit of a small award if they win. It could be one of these things: a hydroponic system, a microgreen crit, or a seasonal seed kit for their school. So depending on whether or not they win, they could win one of those things. So that's going to be a really cool event that we're going to be participating in, and you guys are all welcome to be there. And then Osborne in the news. So one of the most recent things that we've done is we applied for America's Healthiest Schools and a couple of other different awards. What's interesting about this is that these awards are basically highlighting things that we've been doing kind of for a long time, really, in our program. But we felt like it was important to, as a child nutrition department, this is an opportunity for us to highlight Osborne in a positive way. So we went for it, and we applied for these awards, hoping that families will see it. Families will go, "Wow, Osborne's a really cool place. I want my kid to go there, to eat that food, and to be, have this healthy environment." And so that was part of the reason that we did this. But so yeah, we have the America's Healthiest Schools Award. Less than 1% of schools in America are, receive this award. So we're really excited that all 6 of our schools are named in this category. And Healthy Meals Incentive Award is another award that is recognized by the USDA that just says, "Hey, great job," which is really neat. And then and I failed to say the chicken pot pie, I have to put a picture of that in every presentation that I do because it's like kind of where it all started for me. You know, when I first got to Osborne, I was like, chicken pot pie, you got to be kidding.
Yeah.
But it's from scratch. And but that is kind of like essentially why, you know, we're winning these awards is because we've been doing that for a long time and continue to improve and innovate. So we're really proud of that. And then finally, it's National School Lunch Week. And we are, all this week, we're doing new recipes and menu items. So yesterday we had the chicken hot wings, which went over pretty well. Today we had spaghetti made with homemade marinara sauce. And then we were also, one of our employees was, again, on social media, talking about her position and what she does and why she does it. This was posted by the Arizona Food Bank Network. And I think it's a really good representation of, you know, when you send your child to eat in an Osborne kitchen, this is the kind of person that is making that food and that's greeting your child. And I think it's really good for everybody to see this. So
Tengo 11 años trabajando en la cocina, sí. Estoy muy contenta, la verdad, 11 años se me han ido rápido porque disfruto mucho mi trabajo. ¿Sí? En realidad todo, pero me satisface mucho platicar con los niños. Veo que cada niño es especial. Cada niño tiene algo especial, tiene una chispa de felicidad, de necesidad, de, no sé, o sea, disfruto mi trabajo. Quiero decir que, bueno, en realidad todos los alimentos que se preparan aquí son nutritivos, son limpios, tenemos mucha limpieza, muchas reglas que cumplir en la cafetería, en la preparación de alimentos, son, digo, reglas generales, sí, pero hay una parte muy importante, es la atención a los niños. Es muy importante, yo creo, como a mí me toca servir muchas veces el breakfast, me gusta mucho platicar con los niños, buenos días, a la mayoría, ¿verdad? Algunas veces contestan, algunas veces no contestan, pero yo creo que el saludo de la mañana es el más importante. El buenos días, el saber que ellos son atendidos, bien atendidos por alguien que los quiere, como yo en mi caso.
Yeah, so I think that speaks to, you know, the people that are in our department and the people that are, you know, serving the kids and making the food. They love the children, right? And they love what they do. And so when you send your child to a cafeteria, that's the kind of person you're going to meet. So that's it.
Thank you so much, Corey. It was great. Although I'm thoroughly hungry now. I'm like looking at all these pictures of food. I'm like, ooh, it looks really, all of that looks so tasty right now. Questions for Corey?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I saw a post over the summer talking about how one of the important things that Osborne's doing is we take that federal money that we get and then we're spending it locally. And so can you just touch on how the thought process behind being able to get money here in Arizona?
Yeah, so that's true. So the funding that we get funnels through the Department of Education from the USDA, and then it's given to the schools. And so we can turn around and make, you know, our purchases. We can make purchases that keep that money here to the local companies. Or we can go to a Tyson, for example, and purchase their beef or their chicken. Tyson is a national company. So what we're doing this year, there's some funds that are specific for local foods, and that's really helped us also with this decision to purchase local. I reached out to a few ranchers and said, hey, I'm a child nutrition director. We really want to keep our federal money in state. And we're looking for ranchers that can provide us with, you know, some local beef. And so I had there was a couple that responded, and so that's what we did. Over the summer, we went down to Tucson and picked up about 1,300 pounds of ground beef from a local rancher, a small rancher, Jackson's Ranch, and brought it back, put it in our freezer, and then we paid him, and that local rancher has a small ranch. He's a firefighter, and does this, kind of as his passion. It's been in his family for a long time, but now he's benefiting from those USDA dollars that are coming into our state, and we're keeping it here. So
That's great.
I think that's so important. Thank you for doing that. Yeah. And then I just wanted to say thank you for such an amazing staff. As a PTO mom, one of the things that PTO likes to do is try to give teachers a little bit of an extra lunch. And so PTO parents will come in and do that supervision for teachers. And the cafeteria is the happiest place. Like, there is so much going on. Kids are excited. Kids love the food. The food is incredible. I come every year for the Thanksgiving meal. And so I just wanted to say thank you. Like, the cafeteria really is such a happy and joyous place, and you put out an incredible product. And so thank you for all you do to feed our children. Nutrition is so important. I think that as adults, we think the key to being in shape is to work out, and it's really about what you eat. And so setting this foundation so early for our students, and especially to Teresa doing the nutrition classes, thank you for all you do. It's incredible. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Board Member Ramos.
Yeah. So thank you for that presentation. It was really amazing to see all the really great things that happen here in our district. I saw that the foods that the picadillo, the pupusas, the tinga, like, they're all very Latin inspired, which I appreciate. Some of my favorite foods to cook at home or buy. I cannot make pupusas. But do you have others, like other cultures as well, that you're going to be? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, we have tried probably for the last year to figure out tiki masala. It's been a struggle. So, at some point we're going to put it on the menu. We've also reached out to some Native American farms to purchase things like tepary beans and that kind of thing. The process for cooking tepary beans is a little bit more intensive. And so yeah, we do that. With those specific recipes, it was kind of one of those things where I was like, hey, managers, what do you think? What do you want to do this year? What would be some good additions to our menu? And so it's kind of, them working and saying, I think our students would really like this. And so when I hear things like, I know my students, I know what they like, and I really want to try this for them, then that's kind of how that comes about. But next month we're going to do a blue corn, a meal with a blue corn dish, right? And then we're going to do some other, like, squashes and that kind of thing, depending on what's in season. So we're trying to incorporate more of that, different cultures.
Perfect.
But the managers, they really like the picadillo and the tinga, and so that's what it is this year. But
Got it. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Very cool. And Board Member Greenberg.
Thank you again for your presentation. Corey, I'm always so impressed about what our child nutrition department does. I think it really is an area that in many schools is overlooked, but it is just as important as reading and writing and math and all those things that we do in our schools. And it's important for our kids to learn healthy habits, but then also we know that if they're eating healthy foods, it's better for brain development. They're going to be more focused. They're actually going to want to eat the food. And so those things are really important, but again, are often overlooked in many districts. I also wanted to say I attended the last Blue Zone event, and it was incredible. So if you have a chance, I think it's November 14th is the next one. So I don't know if... Yeah, so, okay, Brendan's giving me a thumbs up. I don't know if there's still room to sign up, but it really was, it was, informative, and I learned a lot, but then we got to sample some food, which is always amazing. And you can still bring some samples to our board meetings, Corey. That chicken pot pie, I think you guys had it at our last board retreat, and I was like, wow, that sounds great too, in addition to what we had. So, I think in addition to making the food in our cafeterias, I love that we're, doing cooking lessons with the kids and providing nutrition lessons. I don't think that is something that most districts do, but again, is very important. Some of our kids don't have access to healthy foods when they're at home. And so if we can provide them that access, at least while they're here with us in our buildings, I think that's so valuable. I know this summer we're still doing summer meals. It was a little bit more reduced than what it was in the past. I'd love to see, that continue, just thinking like future forward. If there's a way we can kind of expand this more to invite our community in to see this, I know that they're welcome, but I don't think most people are like, oh, I'm going to go to a school cafeteria today. I mean, most of the time you're like, no, thank you. Right. Yeah. But I think if we can expand that and show people what we're doing, this is just incredible. So thank you. And I also want to thank you too for the time that your team spends putting stuff out on social media. I also think that's something that, most school districts aren't like, hey, look what we're doing in our cafeterias, because usually it's not that cool. So I think that's huge. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That social media, piece is kind of, we're hoping to get more participation like in the summer, right? So when we announce that we have food available, hopefully they'll remember, oh, hey, Osborne, they had the picadillo and they had the tinga, like in that kind of thing. So hopefully that encourages more community members.
Corey, I just want to say I agree with everything. The quality, amazing. Congratulations on the award. Very well deserved. And, I hear it from my girls like about the cafeteria being that happy place, even my picky eater of my two just loves it. But it's a really important issue for me. Not just the quality, which is phenomenal, but the equity piece that you do to make sure that it's free for everyone. And a lot of us young parents who, transitioning from preschool, maybe somewhere else into the Osborne district, it's still, surprising to be like, what, you mean breakfast is free? Well, we must have to pay something for lunch. No, you mean lunch is free too? I mean, it's phenomenal. I think we all know it. And I still think like the more we can do to get that message out there, and we had at least for a while, it's probably still out there, a big sign that says free breakfast, free lunch, getting that message out there, because that is so important for our community. And it's also a big equity piece. When I was in elementary school, I was on the free and reduced lunch program. And I remember bringing in a quarter per meal and some of my other peers were paying the full freight, the $1.50. And it was something that, people would notice. And sometimes other kids would say, hey, why are you just paying a quarter? And there was some embarrassment there, as a kid to have to explain that, I don't know how the free and reduced lunch program works, but I know that I'm, my family needs a little bit of help, and it's a hard thing to navigate for a kid. And so to be able to not have to have those conversations, everybody's on a level playing field. We have the equity piece where no kid has to, explain that we're all just here and Osborne kids and can get that free lunch and free breakfast. It means a lot to me, so thank you for everything you do. Any other questions? All right.
Who runs the social media account? They do a great job.
It's a mixture of all of us. But
Okay.
But Teresa, Teresa is the one that does a lot of the posting. We all take pictures and, kind of put it in a group chat, I guess. And so she posts.
Also, thank you for posting the menus ahead of time in a month format. I sit down with my son at the first of the month and I'm like, okay, Tuesday they're having, whatever it is. Are we bringing lunch or are you eating at school? So thank you for posting that ahead of time. It's really convenient for parents.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Great presentation. Moving on to administrative reports. Are there any questions about any of our administrative reports? Okay, seeing none, moving on to our action items. First thing, really exciting, approval of bond project procurement, DW Playgrounds. Colleen, go ahead. Sure. Absolutely. We can move on to information discussion item E, which is bond update. H2, want to come on up? Hi, how are you? Good to see you.
Thank you. Great to see all you guys.
Absolutely.
We have SPS Plus coming as well. The
Wonderful.
architecture firm, and
We've seen this gentleman around before. We know. We go way back.
so note for future to myself: hard to follow, Corey.
Yes.
And yes.
Yes.
It's really.
You could fill in the blank on a lot of good people here. Yes.
Yes, wonderful. So we are here to give you the bond program updates. I'm going to have Paul go first. He's really been integral in the planning piece. We'll have Dawn Brubaker discuss the design, and then I'll go into more of the project management. So, go ahead.
Good evening, Governing Board. So last month when we provided the update, we kind of did a real global overall of the entire bond. So what we've focused on since then is really the first package, which is the first bond sale, which we're working on right now. So the things that we've gotten through basically to develop that plan for package one is grouping up projects that are very similar. The budgeting for those projects has been broken down into very detailed categories, as well as projecting schedules through for the individual packages. And the next slide will show, but before we get there, it will show there's 9 separate groups in package number 1. So these, they're not necessarily meant to be readable, but this is the type of information that we are working with district administration on right now for each project group, ultimately to get their input and ultimately to be available to update the district's website for bond information for the public. And then we have also set up a fairly detailed tracking of expenditures, which I think I mentioned last time as well, and that will tie into a number of sheets that we're tracking stuff, and then we will do regular reconciliations with district finance department to make sure we're on the same page with that. So, and so essentially, the bond planning is fairly far along, showing 80%. It's generally kind of a guesstimate, but we're pretty far along with it. So, so the next slide shows a little more specifically package number 1. And if you recall, there were $30 million was the dollar amount that we talked about that bonds have been sold for. And so of that $30 million, the projects the district has identified are listed there to the left. Those are actually groups. So Montecito is the large piece. It's about a $11-12 million project cost. So that's the large part of this first package. This gives you an idea of the entire $30 million pie and how it's split between those projects. What we will do is track those and present to you each month kind of a status, which will show expenditure of the individual project funds and also how we're progressing on schedule for each of those projects. So,
And on the Montecito, if you could maybe drill down a little bit. I know we had you know, an HVAC issue over there at Montecito. Is that part of this 38%, or is that somewhere else in this pie?
So that's actually a good question. So the district has taken that to the SFD as kind of emergency funding and gotten approval on that. I think Elizabeth will talk to that in a minute. So.
Okay.
Okay. So. Yeah, Montecito.
Yeah.
Mr. President, members of the board, I won't go as Corey went here with our superintendent, but
yeah.
Thank you
Thanks, Tom.
thank you again for the opportunity. I have to tell you that every time I come to a board meeting here, the energy tells me this is why I enjoy doing educational architecture and so forth. So thank you for the energy and for also making me hungry. So Montecito, you saw that was about 38% of what the first bond package. And we've already started that process, and really the first step that we want to take when we get into any kind of design is first start with with input, getting input from the user groups. And so we've already started with the school staff, the parents, the public, and even the students. We've been putting together some ideas of how we can approach each one of those. Obviously, they're different groups. We're going to approach the students a little bit different than we might do the family, and then also with the staff. And sometimes we get some really cool gems that come out, especially with the students, that they tell us some things that maybe we never even thought of, and it's something that we can use and incorporate into the design. And so right now we have the majority of that scheduled for Tuesday, the 29th, and we have them at different times during the day. But we also will be meeting with like your director of facilities and also the director of IT and so forth, and be getting their input too. So we want to get a well-rounded kind of a poll and a well-rounded information from each one of these different groups. We'll be bringing periodically updates to you, and most of them will be updates. There will be times where we actually will be looking for approvals. When we start getting into dollar amounts, when we start developing the actual guaranteed maximum price with our contractor and so forth, we'll get to a point where we'll have to come to you and actually get approval so that we can continue to move forward. But really, those presentations are broken into many different phases. We talked about the programming. We'll get into schematic designs. And so we put together a schedule going through each one of the kind of the architectural engineering type of phases when you get into schematics, and then we start developing the design even further. We get into construction documents, where actually those are the documents that a contractor that can take and build the project, but also those are the documents that we submit to the different agencies and get those approval, and that's the regulatory reviews and permitting. And really that whole process will take us really into the beginning of summer of next year, where we would be ready to start construction. And some of the other input that we'll be getting is obviously there's some occupants that are already at the school, and working through those logistics so that we're comfortable. And if we're doing construction, if we have an occupied campus or unoccupied, we want this to be an enjoyable process and something that when we're done with this, that everybody is happy with how we did it, and that we would end up then with a facility that would address all the needs. Remember, there's some needs there. You talked about mechanical, but there's some other needs that we never addressed on the last bond, because Montecito, we didn't know where Montecito was headed. So things like upgrading of mechanical and electrical and flooring and painting and things like that, along with the idea, as you know, that this is going to have a signature program, which is the Montessori program at this particular school. And so that's something that we'll continue to develop and make sure that the architecture supports that teaching philosophy and so forth, the student first, the hands-on, to be able to allow students to be creative and have choices and things like that we want the architecture to also support all that. We're also in the process of soliciting for a contractor. That is another piece of the team that is very important to this process, because they'll come in, give us some updates and options as we look through construction materials, different methods and so forth, and they become a very integral part of the team. So that when we're done and we're getting ready to start construction in summer of '25, you, the board, understand clearly what we're doing. We've gleaned information from all the different user groups, and we know exactly what this is going to cost. And so we've eliminated any surprises, or at least minimized them. We can't eliminate all of them, but we try to minimize as we move through this process. So that's kind of a quick overview. If you have any questions on that particular
the meeting done on October 29th, especially like the public piece, what time is that? How can the public attend that meeting on the 29th?
Is that something that we'll post?
Yes, it's
okay.
going to go out through all of the communications to the families, and then it'll go on the website. We'll get ready to send something out. But we're planning for like a 5:30 or 6 o'clock.
Okay.
For the family part, you're right.
Yeah. And then we'll be having the staff and student meetings during the day.
Right.
And is there a public piece, like if the neighbors live in the neighborhood over there want to come? Is there an opportunity for that?
It would be at that
At 5:30?
parent/public meeting.
Okay.
I just need to finalize the time to
Okay.
make sure, and then we'll send stuff out
Great.
later this week.
Cool. If you could just send the board that as well, that'd be great. Thank you.
We're even meeting this week and next week to fine tune a lot of that information and what we'll be doing for that. So, yeah.
Great.
Any other questions on that?
No.
Okay, then the next slide, I get to the top item, right, Solano. Something that's very interesting, as you are probably aware, years ago when we designed a lot of the schools, and really not just us, but across the state and even the nation, there was a philosophy of making sure that the schools were accessible to the community. Not that they're, we don't want to stop that, but as obviously security has become a heightened awareness, that we have to kind of go back and take a look at some of those ideas and how can we improve, if you will, that security because of the philosophy that we had years ago. And what we're going to find as we move through this bond project, there's going to be some schools that we need to kind of break out separately, maybe an item, like for instance, Solano is an example, where you have a gymnasium cafeteria that had a lot of access, both outside of the campus, inside the campus. Fencing has been tried to apply and so forth, but we need to improve that even more, and that's something that they've asked us to take a look at. Well, this is an example of, we've already talked to the fire marshal a little bit about maybe eliminating some exits, that we still stay within the required codes and so forth. And they said, why don't you come up with a plan that what you would suggest, and then let's sit down and talk about it. What that gives us then is it gives us a clear direction of what we can do and maybe what we can't do, and then we can take that and incorporate it into the overall plan as we work on Solano. So what that does is as we develop the rest of the plan of Solano, I know in that particular area that was a concern for some security and exiting and so forth, what I can or cannot do, and I incorporate that into the overall plan. And so it just gives us a clear direction and make sure that we make decisions properly. Codes, there are some items that are absolute. There's other items that are up to interpretation. And so that this is an interpretation one, and we want to make sure that we're clear with the different regulatory agencies and so forth. So what we're doing with Solano is we're going to take a look at that cafeteria, because we have those two exits that open up right to the west side of that particular building. We have some that the main entrance is on the south. You have some other exiting and accesses on the east side. And so we're just taking a look at that and say, okay, how can we improve the access and security and still allow the internal access for students and so forth? So we're working on that. But we will take that information and then incorporate it with the overall plan. We might be doing that at Longview, in Canto, all the other ones. And so this is just an example of what we're looking at doing that at this particular campus. Does that make sense? Understand?
Yeah.
So any questions on that?
It's I appreciate the perspective and getting public input, because it's tough. It's a tough thing. And I remember when we put up some glass over at Encanto, this is years ago, you probably remember this, and before I joined the board, and there was some consternation, because it was like, look, we want to be open to the public, we want to be accessible, we want to be, welcoming. And then I understand certainly the concerns we're talking about here. So it's a tough balance in 2024 to do that and how to maintain it, not a prison-like quality, but a very much a community-like quality, but also with a eye towards safety. So
we always call it, we want it secure but transparent, so that you still feel welcome. It's interesting, the glass we did it in Canto and some of the other ones, actually COVID drove a lot of that.
Yes, I remember that.
Originally, because it's the safety of the people, working behind counters. But it has that other purpose too. So
Yeah.
Good example. Any questions on that? All right, thank you very much.
So thank you both. So a little bit on that circulation at Solano, just to piggyback, we have had a lot of input, right? A lot of, the principal people have given that input. Sam's walked that several times. And having somebody like a state fire marshal with the guardrails and telling us, hey, these are great ideas, but this is, what we need to be doing for, specific codes and regulatory out there. So that's where we are, and that is kind of how these processes work for managing these individual projects. Right now, We did some roofing assessments. So over the fall break, while everybody was cleared off campus, we had a roofing company, an assessment company come in. They went over every single roof. We did some weatherization at Encanto as well. So all of that has been completed. We actually are starting to get the reports in already. Today I've gotten a couple of those reports, which is great. They worked very quickly for us. So that will help us get on track for what do we need to be doing. We can look at what their assessments are and put us on track for where we need to go, and also be looking into always the SFD portion and what some potential, So, and next thing would be playgrounds and shade structures. So as you know, this has been a process for us, and there's some really great grants out there. We're very excited, great people on board with this project. During the fall break also, there were some replacements that needed to be done at the campuses. Some of the chains on the swings, the belts on the swings, some of the rubberized surfacing that was under the swings, we took that up because it really is, it's a lot of maintenance on those. I don't think people realize. So those came up and infill with the engineered wood fiber. There was 2 campuses that had a little bit of a snag with some factory. They sent the wrong size chain, but we let the principals know that should be happening in the next couple days, getting that back up running. But we did get all 4 schools received the adaptive swing, and I already can, yes, the kids are loving that. So we have that in place, and so always looking for, the forward thinking for the kids, for play, and to be inclusive in particular. So we have that. We also, going forward for these new playgrounds and these additions to the playgrounds, through the grant, we have worked with the principal, so I have a lot of principal input. There has been input from the staff and the teachers. There's also been input from the students. So on a couple of these campuses, they've put together surveys. They got the information back. Some were really funny to listen to. But also, there definitely were some high notes for what some of the students needed. So we have a lot of input. We're making sure that we're listening. We know that some of these campuses need to have a lot of curb appeal. And so, we're continuing. It's a process. It just takes a lot of people and a lot of steps and a lot of iterations of renderings to get, those gears to eventually click. So, but we're doing great on that. We've got the applications complete and they're ready to go once we get the final on those. And so moving into the SFD funding, there's a lot of BRG funds out there. Sam has been working tirelessly in the portal, getting everything, making sure that it's updated. As you guys all know, there's a lot of requirements. Colleen's had to, make sure that some of these other reports and things are up to date. And so that's all been ready to go. And we had a tower go out at Montecito. And so Sam worked with the liaison. She's pretty readily available to him. She's made that clear to him and got that input, and that is on the approval path. Yes, yes. So that's good. Good start off to that.
Chiller 2 approved for repair. The cooling tower is still in its middle process.
Yes.
And that's a new cooling tower? Or it's the temporary one? A repair to the existing cooling tower? Yeah. And then I know anytime there's an emergency, I always assume there's a fairly significant expense to get an emergency, temporary unit or whatever. Is SFD cover that? No, that comes out of our M&O. That temporary deal that we needed to put in to keep the school in session. Got it.
Yeah, but again, having that portal up to date and ready to go made it so Sam could immediately get in and put that in. And yes, there was going to be there's going to be a time frame for having to do a rental on that, in particular because we are, October, but not really fall.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Is the temporary unit still there right now? Okay, and how much longer will it have to be there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'll be part of that.
Mhm. So a
Got
lot
it.
of these are going to do that, and that's not uncommon. We can plan and prepare, and then something happens.
Yeah.
That is, yeah, it's never, you know,
Yeah.
plan for the worst, hopefully expect the best, but sometimes they overlap each other by a little bit.
Yep.
So.
Yep. For
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, but again, we have a whole list of items in our bond planning that are potential SFD projects. So we are absolutely going to be putting forth everything that we can, and have been told directly from our liaison. The worst thing is I have to say no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's good, but we've. Yep. So we're on the right track
Great.
for that, and I think that's about it for our updates. Do
Questions?
you have any questions?
Can
Go
you?
ahead.
Oh, can you share a little bit more? I know that you had mentioned the adaptive swings. Can you share a little bit more about, how our there were a couple options shared, but how are they inclusive? What other features do they have for kids? Not just with physical impairments, but maybe like thinking about like sensory needs or those kind of things. And then I don't know if off the top of your head, if there's any feedback you remember being shared by the students for things that they wanted, if you could share some of that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
I have one as the presentation, and these are some really urgent needs for the community, and also just really supported improvements that the community supports. We're coming up on a year anniversary of our community, really, and voters saying overwhelmingly, we want to
Yes.
improve our schools in a major way, and we want that to happen, and we love our community for that. We saw what happened at Montecito. The summers are just, it feels like they're getting longer and more intense, and they're stressing our schools, and they're stressing so much about our society. All that build up to say, is there anything we can do to, I don't know if accelerate's the right word, but just to get these improvements going on a quicker pace? I'm not trying to, make people work on the weekends or overtime or anything like
working
that.
on the weekends.
But I'm sure you are. I'm sure you guys are. But in terms of, contractors and whatnot, I'm not trying to, but I just know that at least as long as I've been paying attention to these type of issues in the last 12 years, and certainly more recently, construction costs go up, every year. I think Don taught me that like 12 years ago, when I was, chairing one of the bond campaigns. And just, is there anything we can do from, our side, your side, to just get these improvements moving more quickly on a quicker pace?
Yeah, so I think, it's brick by brick in the beginning, and, working through each of the bond sales, determining what is going to be falling within each of those bond sales, some of them shouldering in from one bond sale one into bond sale two, and all of that. That is a lot of consideration. We can't overspend, in the first year. So there's that. The assessments are critical. We have to know what's happening on the roofs and with the roofing. We are working to get life cycle reports, which Dawn has been instrumental, and that was, that wasn't our company, so we can't really ask another company for those documents. And although we, in a roundabout way have, but they were not everything that we needed. So we know it's out there. Dawn was able to secure that, and actually we're going to talk over that with Sam tomorrow.
Wonderful.
We tried to open the first link, and it was like, these are not, yeah. So again, it's, we have to establish what the deficiencies are. This is okay, this is the life cycle on this, I think we're good for this, but we have to do this. So really, it's just, it's getting everything on the rails, and it is going to include a lot of those assessments. So it's not, I don't have a hard and fast schedule date for you,
Yeah.
but we are aware of all of it, and it is all in a consideration in,
Got it.
yeah.
Appreciate the time and attention, and appreciate the team firing on all cylinders. Is whatever you can do to, you know, keep it moving forward, keep it on the tracks, you know, hasten wherever you can. And when somebody's like, you know, if you want me to ask him, I'll go ask him for whatever you need. But just keep things moving forward as quickly as possible, because
Yes.
we want to show the community that's you know, paying for them and supporting us to pay for them, that, hey, look at, this is your dollars at work here. Look at this, look at that. And, you know, people have a short attention span, and so we want to show them as fast as possible. So appreciate everything you're doing to make that happen.
Yeah, some of those behind the scenes are hard to see for
Yeah.
sure for the community, but we do understand, and I will tell you, it's a great team. I
Yeah.
mean, every one of us is, I hate to say, doesn't really feel like work. It's really, it's an honor and a privilege for us to do what we do. It's great to work with all of you guys in the Osborne District is really great. And so it's easy to build a team, you know, when you have that in place.
For sure.
So
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you so much for the bond update. I'm going to move back because we were just talking about it, to the action item A, approval of bond project procurement, the DW playgrounds. Colleen.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Elizabeth to hang out in case we have some of those other questions, but
Please.
I kind of wanted to just go through the renderings so that those that are joining us virtually, as well as a lot of our staff here in the room, haven't seen, unless they're the actual principals on those campuses, haven't really gotten to get excited about what's coming either. So we can kind of go through those, but also just kind of wanted to talk about the process as well. So we really started out with looking at 3 different playground companies, did some site walks, got some initial quotes, and we've really narrowed it down to the recommended vendor for the project, which would be Altitude. And a lot of that went into the grants that were going to be available through Altitude, which would allow us to do more with the dollars that we have. So there are some significant size projects that we're recommending at a couple of our campuses. And I just want to kind of start with, this is not all of the playgrounds or shade that's coming as part of the bond. This is just the first phase that had kind of the ability to design and do that was not as complex. So we are still going to be, we're in the middle right now. We've already started looking at some things with Longview, but it's going to be a little bit more complex, involving some other trades and civil engineering, possibly with some walls and things that are going to need to be done. So, but those things are still coming. There's going to be more coming for Solano. This is just the first phase, and working through the grant application deadline so that we can maximize those opportunities to then be able to get more for our dollar with that. And so the grants are due at the end of this month. So as Elizabeth had mentioned, the applications are done. We're in the middle of finalizing selections with the schools based on the input that the principals have gotten from staff and students, as well as input that we've gotten from Dr. Boyle, our special education director. So Elizabeth and I have been meeting, her more so than me, but we've been meeting vigorously for the last several weeks to get everything kind of buttoned up, and we're still making some minor modifications. So the renderings that are in the packet, those in no way are like the final. The majority of the layout and majority of what visually of what the equipment will kind of look like is there, but now we're going into the details with the principals based on the feedback they've gotten to say, hey, we don't like this, we want to swap that for this, or we want a little bit more of this. And so that's where we're kind of working out all those other components. And then of course, color choices and all the fun stuff that the sites like to do. Brendan, if you could pull up the packet, we're on page 80, 82, 83.
80? Okay.
Thank you. You want to go right down to the next page there, Brendan. So starting with Solano, we had initially, like I mentioned, we have much larger kind of plans for future needs at Solano in regards to other playgrounds, but for what we're doing right now, we're adding some pieces to an already existing playground. And so these are some additional pieces that we're adding in. The playground where this is going is also the playground that the Strive program, special education program at Solano, pretty much accesses. This playground is their play area. So a lot of those pieces that we're adding in are those sensory pieces, the interactive pieces, mobility, kind of movement. That's a double rocker there that you see. And so really, and we want to do that across all of our playgrounds. So that's something that's been very important as we've been moving through and talking with the vendor and going through design is, we want to make sure that even we're planning for programs that might not exist yet, right? So we may not have students at every campus that have some mobility issues, but we want to make sure as we're adding in playgrounds that we are being very inclusive and we're planning for future programs, because we never know what future programs may in years change and shift site to site or expand in the district. And so that's all part of that thought process. If we scroll down to Clarendon.
Colleen, Solano, I know before we jump off that, the new pieces, are they under a shade canopy? I know that was a big thing that I heard last time I was over at Solano, is that it's, for large portions of the year that the playground's unusable, or at least a lot of pieces are unusable because of the no shade. Is there, are these under like an existing shade canopy, these new pieces, or where are they going to be located?
In Solano, is that one currently shaded?
If I might. So this Strive area is really right up against a building, and it is very shaded from that building. The piece that you see,
It's not
oh yeah,
connected to
sorry.
me.
I'm using hers, but it's not driving up there. There was one piece that showed a musical piece on a sidewalk. That
Yes.
actually is not, the piece is correct. I was telling, it's difficult, they don't have, we don't have these kind of trees.
I was going to say, that doesn't look like Arizona.
Yes, so
Yeah.
they have to just pick a background of some sort.
Yeah.
And furthermore, the person who put this together did the right pieces, but he put one piece out there instead of up against the wall where Teresa wants it. So
Okay.
both of these pieces will fit within the fall zones, within the existing equipment, and it is all in that existing Strive area, which is pretty shaded. I don't think I've ever been out in that
Okay.
area, and it has not had a good amount of shade. But I
Cool.
know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yep. Thank you.
And before we move on to the other school, will this be like this color, or will there be different colors?
No, so the renderings don't reflect
Okay.
final color choices. Their principals are going through and
Yeah.
deciding that with input at their campuses of what those are. Knowing Teresa, and she's going to want that to reflect all of the wonderful orange and blue of Solano's campus. So
Yeah.
We support her.
if we can move down to Clarendon. So Clarendon had kind of, as we kind of have been massaging, kind of came down to two options, different renderings there. I just wanted to point out, as you're looking at these top views, so the red lines, those are the fall zones, so we can't put anything overlapping within those fall zones for safety. But the other rectangular line there, that's the existing shade structures. So anytime you're seeing that, that's kind of that existing shade there. And so the option for Clarendon is going under an existing shade structure that's already there. It currently has volleyball under it. We're gonna move the volleyball over to the center court of the basketball court, and then these play structures will go under the existing shade. And so we're kind of operating within the footprint that's already there as well. But if we move down, you can kind of get a sense of Clarendon. The first option there has this really interactive kind of challenger is what it's called, unit. And then one of the things that came out of Clarendon's student surveys was they really, really wanted a slide. So the initial renderings didn't have a slide, but we've gone back and we were adding that in. And then also feedback that Jeff was giving us as well, Mr. Martin, around, you know, how he wanted that slide configured, how he wanted to make sure safety and just different things and swapping out pieces. You know, we initially had some chin-up bars there, and he's like, no, I don't want chin-up bars. That just becomes a safety issue. And so what can we replace that with? And so there's been a lot of back and forth that's been happening to kind of, again, massage and get to the final, because there's so many pieces. These can be customizable in so many ways, where it's, I want to swap this out and change it out for this, or I want bars here, I don't want bars here, I want steps here, I want a climbing structure here. And so it's so customizable that we've been really going back and forth a lot on all of these things. Elizabeth, did you want to share any of the specific student comments beyond that? If there was anything else that, I know you mentioned that some of the student comments were.
I think they wanted the water, the shooters, they wanted
Oh, cool.
hoverboards, they wanted, right? So that was
Sounds,
really fun to
yeah.
get this stuff in here. Yeah.
Hoverboards.
So, yes.
Wow.
But
Yes.
the slide was probably the number one, right? So again, reconfiguring the fall zones, making sure that we can get that. Jeff's concern was the safety and making sure that kids, he's got the older kids, so nobody jumping off once they get to the top of the slide. A lot of what Sarah Boyle's input was, again, the tactile, something that gives feedback, something low, something high, that everybody will have something to be doing. And so there is potential for, you can see on here, again, not the right background, but there might be potential for adding some additional pieces. Anything that we can get packed in to these playgrounds at this point, we will be doing. These grants are great. It's 100% match. So we're really trying to get as much as we can. This was another iteration that,
Yeah, Brenda, do you want to scroll down?
I have a question about
Keep
this
scrolling.
one,
Yeah.
actually, that picture.
Uh-huh.
So if you see like the bridge-looking structure there, do these playground equipments come with warranty? Like, for me, this little kind of bridge, kind of shaky thing looks like it's gonna break. Pieces like that tend to not be the most durable parts of playgrounds. So when they install, does that come with a warranty where they'll come fix it if it breaks?
yes,
Okay.
yes. In fact,
Lifetime warranty? Or is it limited?
so much lifetime, but these companies love what they do.
Mm.
I have to tell you, I mean, Sam probably can speak more to it than I can with his experience. But the company that came in over the fall break and did the chain replacement, yeah, you had to pay for some of that, but it was pretty reasonable, right? They
Some
definitely.
components will have a lifetime.
Yes.
Like the clasp that hold the platforms up or the slides,
Mm.
or the barriers, those clasps will be lifetime. But some areas are meant to be worn, so they'll have like a life expectancy of like 5 years. So warranty probably fall like 2 years, just depends on the piece.
Okay.
And there's a whole manual per se, that Sam, all the facilities managers at all the campuses receive, that it tells them exactly what's the upkeep, this is what you need to do for maintenance and all of that. So.
If you want to scroll, Brendan, this is the next. This is just the back side of that, where you can see a little bit more of the climbing wall there as well. If you want to just kind of keep moving, Brendan. So option 2 has a totally different look to it, based on, again, student feedback and the slides. So this incorporates more than one slide. This is similar to what you would see, kind of traditional playground look. It's got 3 slides there, some of the bridges, those pieces, and then you'll notice there's this like 5-seater, counting the middle there, of like a rocker as well. Again, we're trying to incorporate as many of those like pieces that are also seating, moving, spinning, all those other pieces as well. And you'll see that repeat itself also at Encanto with a seater like that as well. And so again, it doesn't change the price point that's recommended for all of these projects for action tonight. The price points that are in there is based on the maximum price. So regardless of which which options the principals decide to go with, and then also swapping out piece for piece, it's still going to be within that overall authorization that we're asking for tonight for the project. If we kind of move through now to Encanto's option 1. you can kind of get a sense of the layout there. I'm actually going to skip, Brendan, if you want to skip down the two options. So there were 3 options for Encanto, but the 2 options that went out to the students are actually option 2 and 3. Again, initially staff feedback, and then went right into refining option choices again. So option 2 and 3 there is the brown and blue. Granted, these are not final colors. And kind of sees this would be an extension of the current playground at Encanto. So if you're familiar with Encanto, they have a current structure with a large hip shade, and then there's the slab that runs down where the basketball courts are, and then there's some tetherball courts there. So this would be pulling out those tetherball courts and extending the playground essentially from where the current playground and rock wall ends all the way down the length of the field, pretty much as close as we can get to the side fence by the bus bay area.
Okay.
So this would be an entire length of that field extension, and then shade over all of these new components. So you can see there those, again, those squares represent new shade over all of those pieces.
Oh, the blue triangle shade?
It's the
Alright.
smaller black
Oh, okay, the black.
rectangles.
Okay, got it.
Those would be the shade structures.
Okay, got it. That's great.
We were actually out there this morning with the rep and walked the area with Kim as well, and we kind of got the measuring tapes out, and she was able to get a really good visual of where the size and how it's all going to kind of lay out. The classrooms voted, so they took votes with the students at Encanto,
Cool.
and the option that the students majority preferred, I think the vote ended up being 5 classrooms went with that option, and 14 classrooms went with option 3, which is the, yeah, Brendan's gonna get us there. It's, has a lot of really cool features to it, so I'm not surprised that the kids went with this option. Again, extending the whole length of that field area. And if you want to keep moving there, Brendan, so this is the option that the students
Cool.
selected. Some of the staff feedback that we've gotten is around wanting to switch out some of the enclosures there, so not really loving the fact that it's a tube slide and that it's fully enclosed. Also, some of those platforms, staging areas before they go down the slide, kind of wanting to open those up so it's a little more visual, seeing through. So again, we're going to make some of those modifications and changes as well. The structure there in the middle, we're also going to be swapping out that one right there. It's, nope, the one to the right. We're going to swap that out. That just felt a little too high for 5 and 6-year-olds with some monkey bars and then a crawl up on top. So we're going to be swapping that out for some more of those swings. I know you were mentioning the sway swings, but we want to get more of those lower to the ground options for movement incorporated into the playground. So we're going to be swapping that out for kind of an arch swing that's kind of like a circular where like 3 kids can get on the swing at once and kind of move. As well as some additional swings that we just talked about this morning being incorporated as well. So we'll have some tandem swings and other things going in again too. So lots of really cool things that we're kind of adding in all the little finishing pieces and touches to, but everyone's really, really excited about what we're moving forward. And again, this isn't everything we're doing. We still have a budget built in for shade. So there's some areas like the courts at Clarendon and some of the other at Solano, other current playgrounds that we want to come back and do shade, but that's a different vendor. This is what we're able to package through this grant where they can come in and kind of do both all at once.
Cool. Colleen, assuming this passes right now, how soon will we be able to get this new playground equipment out for the kids?
Right, so we actually asked them that this morning, and they're working on like an 8 to 12 week lead time once we get the order in. So our target right now is winter break. There might be some like a 2-week where we have to rope off some of the areas because they're not going to be able to do this like at Encanto. They're not going to be able to do this large of a footprint within like the 2 weeks of winter break. So they might need like 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. So But our goal is to get it done so that it's there by, midpoint of the school year.
Got it. This might be a Mrs. Fernandez question then. With this new structure, which seems to be pretty sizable, which is super exciting, would this be a different zone? I've heard about the zones. Zone 2, is this zone 2? Is this zone 4 now? I've heard, I just hear about the zones at home, and so I don't fully understand the zones, but I hear about the zones. So what zone is this? Uh-huh. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Mm-hmm. 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 Got it. Yeah. Got it. Appreciate it. I don't want to. I know some folks. There's different views on zones and something that was implemented during the pandemic. I don't want to open up that can of worms, but appreciate the answer. Any other questions?
I was wondering, so just looking at the Clarendon and Conjo playgrounds in particular, so I think they look incredible. They look really cool. But the Encanto ones do look like a little bit higher and, and I think that's great. But I'm just wondering, like for Clarendon, like that is an older group. So maybe it's just the way that the renderings look. But are there going to be, I don't know, it just looks like the Encanto one is almost for like an older group versus the Clarendon one. So I don't know if.
Yeah, you can. I think I'll let Elizabeth, but I think that's also part of why we're swapping out some of those higher pieces at Encanto so that we can put more lower, kind of closer to the ground pieces, balance beams, step pods. We're going to do some more interactive pieces at Encanto so that it won't kind of feel that way. But I also think that, again, Encanto has the opportunity because there's nothing already there. It's kind of, with Clarendon, we're limited to, we're operating under a shade structure that already exists at a certain height with a certain footprint already there. And so we're kind of limited in that way too, but.
Precisely, that is what I was going to address, that we're working a little backwards on this one, but part of what this company is going to be doing is they'll demo the volleyball and then they will include it in their pricing to sleeve the second court of the basketball. So I think Jeff really loves the idea of letting the kids not just be here and they love the swings, but also, eventually, getting everybody to that court too. And across the board, shade was the number one with every one of the schools. And like Colleen said, that is a different vendor direct company. One of the other things I wanted to address for you was scheduling. So this is the only, Altitude Rec is the only playground company that does a grant that will let you do it for all of your schools.
That's great.
Every other one that I've been working with, that you have to pick one school. So as far as scheduling goes, there's going to be a certain amount that has to be deposited for placing the order and getting it to fall under the grant. They won't even charge for the rest of it until after install. So there's also going to have to be, again, with Colleen will shake out all the financial side of it and what can be paid. But she's right, it is about 8 to 12 weeks. And one of the biggest things, and I'm sure Sam can speak to this too, is that engineered wood fiber, for some reason, it is the longest lead time. It takes so long to bring that in on these trucks. So that is probably, I think the equipment itself is probably not as difficult to get. It's that wood fiber. And so, and I've seen it, I have another project where the playground went up, but they had to wait.
Yeah.
It's like excruciating for the kids because they can't get out there until it's safe. Yeah.
Sounds good. And that if there's an opportunity to do so at one or more of the schools to have like a little ribbon cutting, something excitement that we can come and be a part of and with the kids and whatnot, would really appreciate that. I don't want to hold it up and be like, kids, you can't play on this until the board comes and christens it. I don't want to do that. But if there is, I just don't want to.
I'll have to take a turn on
You
the
know,
slide
yeah.
first while they watch
we
us.
get to first go down the slide first, yeah. But if there is an opportunity, it's just nice to kind of recognize our community for investing in our schools and doing something, even if it's kind of a small little ribbon cutting thing. And so just keep that in mind, not to hold anything up or make anything more complex. But if you see those opportunities, we appreciate those type of things.
Absolutely.
I was wondering, particularly with Encanto, and this may be a silly idea, but I know we're thinking about, how does it look when people are driving by and things like that,
Or biking by.
or biking or walking, or anything like that. I know it sounds like it'll be kind of on that back end, and then there will be field, right, and then the fence to the out, like where the street is. Is that right?
Yeah, so this would be running parallel to the campus now. So
Right.
basically, as you leave right here on Osborne, as soon as you drive, if you're headed west, as soon as you pass the district office building, it would run just kind of parallel to Osborne Road, but on the north side of the field.
Okay.
So then, because the swings right now are on the south side, so it'd just be like that whole length of the field will be playground on the north side, swings on the south side, and the field will still be in the middle.
Okay. I don't know if it would make a difference, or even this may be a horrible idea and you're like, don't suggest this, but even if it's like, I don't know, closer to like the street, just visually. So like as people are driving by, I mean, we still have that gate. So I don't know if there would be, safety or some other reasons to not do that, but I'm just.
We actually talked about some different locations this morning, but one of the things that we want to try to maximize is if we're putting shade over, right, the new structures. So then there's going to be the benefit of then that slab where they currently play basketball will get shade from those as well. So that's part of the thought with that. As well as we're trying to do all of this with very minimal, if any, hopefully, but we don't know for sure, but with minimal to the current trees that exist around the perimeter. And so if we were to move it to like that south side, we have some issues with some of the trees. Whereas on where it's at now, I think we're going to be able to do it without having to hopefully remove any trees, maybe trim some, but not remove them. So.
Okay. Hearing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. It does pass. Very exciting. Thank you guys so much. Moving on next to the approval of the 2023-24 annual financial report. Colleen.
Yes. More fun stuff.
Yes. Yeah. It's all you today.
Okay, I'm just waiting for Brendan to pull up. So instead of going through all of those really tedious spreadsheets that are part of the AFR, I kind of pulled out some highlights to go over. And so the first item I kind of wanted to touch on was dollars in the classroom. So this is not necessarily going to be exactly what the AG's office puts out when they do their statewide report of dollars in the classroom and school district spending. They oftentimes have different formulas that they're using to pull into that to come up with the percentages. But this is going to be fairly close to what that looks like. So kind of how everything is divided up within Osborne. Our total classroom dollars will be roughly around 67%. That's again, classroom, instructional supports, and student supports. And one of the things that I noticed when we're pulling this together is that we have had a little bit of a shift with increase in student supports last year. And I think a part of that is because we had gone after and were awarded some grants, but those grants had restrictions on the positions that were specifically awarded were for those instructional supports and student support positions, such as additional master teachers that we received through that AZ Prime, the NIET grant, as well as this year I expect to see those instructional support dollars go up a little bit more as well, as we've had some literacy coach grants approved and those things, and they're not coded directly to classroom, they're coded as instructional support. But collectively, all three of those categories total our total dollars in the classroom. Looking at our food service, plant, and transportation costs, those areas have gone up slightly compared to prior year kind of piece of the pie. That is significantly, inflation is driving that. As we've had salary increases in all of those areas, they've gone up at the same rate, right? District-wide, we tend to do certified raises at a same percentage across, regardless of whether it's student support or classroom. Same thing with our hourly. Those hourly staff that work in transportation received the same percentage increases as those staff that worked directly in classrooms or supports. So aside from that, because that should be growing at the same rate, the inflation costs are what's contributing to that. I know we all are experiencing that individually, but the district is experiencing that too, and it's not something that I've necessarily mentioned or we talk about a whole lot. So now's the time with the AFR. Food costs, so we think about food service. Food costs have significantly gone up, as we all know, due to inflation. Also, fuel costs go up with inflation. Construction costs, when we get into those plant costs and repairs, every time we have to call a vendor out for a repair, those costs have gone up. As well as freight and shipping, and there's a lot of things that get added on when we're dealing with plant, transportation, and food areas there for operations. And then the kind of last piece of the pie is that administration piece. And so that's broken out there on the side. I know it's kind of small there, but school administration represents 4%. So that's not just the administrators. So when we think about administration costs, it's not just the administrators, but it's all of the support staff supporting administration as well. So it's the front offices at the schools, pretty much everybody kind of that's housed in that front office area, in addition to the school principals. So that represents 4%. Central services here at the district office represents just over 5%, and then general administration represents just over 1% of all of our spending. And this is a representation not just of our maintenance and operations, but this is all of our funds into this. If you want to move, Brendan, to the next slide there. So these are just some highlights, again, of kind of our key funds and kind of grouped together. So again, as you're not looking at that entire summary sheet of all the different funds broken out, this focuses on the total expenditures and then what that expenditure is as a percentage of our overall expenditures for the district, excluding debt service. So those percentages that total isn't included in here. The maintenance and operations total expenditures were just over $19.7 million last year, and that represents 52% of our overall spending. Capital funds was just over $1.8 million, classroom site funds. Federal and state grants, that's a number that I would expect to see probably go down a little bit next year, as this was kind of like that final last full year of ESSER funds, COVID relief funds, not just in ESSER, but in also some of our other preschool programs that were being supported through COVID relief dollars through DES grants and other pieces. So seeing those this is the last year that I would expect to kind of see those at that 27% of overall expenditures. Might go back down to kind of where it was in years past, was more around that high 19 to 20% range. And then we have all of our other funds. That number's actually gone up. So that's great, because if expenditures are going up, it means that revenues in those areas are also going up, because most of those funds are cash-controlled funds. So we have to make sure we have the revenue and the cash there before we spend. So if expenditures are up in those areas, then funds are up in those areas as well. So that's great to see. And then food service representing just about 5.6 or 6% of total expenditures for the district. Again, that number is up, again, because of those inflationary costs on food. Usually, the food service program in past years has operated just under 2 million, and they kind of hit that just over 2 million mark this year for the first time. If we move to the next slide, this drills down into our maintenance and operations. So just looking at our M&O expenditures, our salary and benefits made up over 80% of each M&O dollar goes directly to our staff. Purchase services was over 13%. That would be any contracted professionals, as well as our property insurance, and when we're paying for private tuition placement for certain students. This percentage has shifted. So the previous year, our salaries and benefits were about 83% and from FY23, and so for FY24, our purchase service was about 10%, and so it was just like a 3% shifted from direct employees to an increase in purchase services. And I think that's a trend that we're seeing across the state, especially here in kind of Metro Phoenix area, where we've had to go out and we've had to have more contracted teachers, especially when we get into contracted therapists, psychologists, contracted SPED teachers. So it's still in people, but it's just whether they're a direct hire versus a purchase service is that kind of shift. Supplies and utilities representing just under 6%. The majority of that is utilities. There's nowhere near 6% in actual supplies. It's because it's combined with utilities. And then other is less than 0.5%. That's where we tend to pay for a lot of our student entry fees, student travel, membership dues from other funds besides M&O. That's where we utilize donations and tax credits and 21st century grants and all those other things for student fees, student travel. So maintenance and operations doesn't absorb as much of that in cost. If we move,
sorry,
oh, no, go
Colleen,
ahead.
what could you help me understand the private tuition piece there? What is that?
So we have a handful of students every year based on their needs in their IEP. They receive services at private schools, such as the ACEs or through ASDB, the Foundation for the Blind, were the two schools that we had students privately placed at last year. And so that's an IEP team decision, but we pay tuition for them to attend those schools.
Within the district. Okay. Got it. Got it. And what do you attribute the shift to contractors? What you know, I know you mentioned that, but why do you think that is?
Well, I will say there's definitely, as we've all talked about, teacher shortage, and there's teacher shortage in some of those high needs positions, as well as we've always kind of had years where we have one or two contracted therapists or a contracted psychologist, but there's just, I would say it's very difficult to find professionals in those areas that want to be a direct hire of a district when they can go to a contract agency and they don't have to contribute to ASRS and they don't have some other things, and so they're able to, their net take-home pay is a little higher than if they had been a direct hire of the district. But they also miss out then on those ASRS contributions, they miss out on all the other longevity pieces that go along with being a direct employee. Oftentimes, I will say I haven't seen it as frequently in my previous districts, but Osborne I do, which speaks, I think, tremendously to our programs and the environment that we have here. We do end up with quite a few every year of people that begin as a contracted teacher or contracted therapist with us. They fall in love with Osborne, and the next year, they want to be a direct hire. They want to be an employee. And so they're kind of like feeling the waters out almost that first year. And then, so we have been able to have a lot of that transition happen, which I haven't seen as often in my previous districts, and so I think that's great. They so enjoy the school campus and the culture here.
For sure. Thank you.
The next slide is just a real kind of quick high-level highlights. So one of the pieces that we do report out on in the AFR is average teacher salary. We also see this at budget adoption and budget revision time, but I think it's something to celebrate. In no way are we where we want to be. Obviously, we want to continue. This is not a stopping point at all. We want to continue to put money into salaries across the board, teachers and all of our support staff. continue increases, but I do think it's nice to stop and champion the work that's already happened. And so this is a really big number. I'm not sure how this compares. I haven't looked around at other districts yet, but we have almost 35% increase in our average teacher salaries since 2018. And I think that's a big move in 6 years, and something that collectively I know a lot of work went into at the board level, but also through the OEA and then also through our budget committee work. And so I think it's really, really powerful and something that we've accomplished. And not noted on there, but Osborne has always done a really great job of making sure that we're increasing our support staff salaries as well. And so they typically have seen the same level of increase. And so when we say average teacher salaries have gone up by that, we can also say support staff have gone up by that, if not more, because there were some years where support staff received a higher increase level because of the minimum wage triggers. So also looking at the kind of that piece of the pie, 70% of every dollar is going to the schools. 67% are those classroom dollars, but when you take into account that other 4% for school administration and the school's front offices, I think it's really great to be able to say that 70% of every dollar goes right to the school level for school level spending. And then our fund balances. So our M&O fund balance, because I know we kind of ended the year talking about the importance of fund balance, and so our M&O fund balance that we ended FY24 with, it represents 12% of our maintenance and operations expenditure levels from last year. And our goal is 17%, but we're on track to get there. Our overall total general fund balance, because it's more than just M&O that goes into that, as part of our audited financial statements, represents 15% of last year's M&O expenditures. Not all of that, not all of that is uncommitted right now. So we did make the decision at the end of last year to already commit some of those reserves we knew we were gonna have in planning for that growth that we were expecting in student enrollment at Solano and OMS. So we had already allocated about $1 million of that fund balance to adding in teachers for class size in preparation for that. We added 9 FTEs right at the end of last year from those reserves. So the next slide is just a quick kind of overview of our capital funds. As we're moving into bond projects and kicking off this $100 million bond program, just kind of giving a quick overview. We have just over $6.7 million in our, this is DAA, so that unrestricted capital fund balance. That's the combination of what we receive from the state as well as our DAA override. Part of that balance has been building up for the last several years as we had budgeted as part of the override to have kind of year-to-year curriculum adoptions and updates, and we haven't necessarily been on that same timeline for when those things are expended. And so it's built up so that then the next adoption we do, the funds are there for that. We had just over $1 million in expenditures. Want to make sure we celebrate our principal payments for our debt service. Last year, FY24, was our final principal payment on our previous 2017 bond refinancing. So our current debt service that we have is only the 2018 voter authorized, so the $50 million bonds program that just ended, and our new $30 million that's part of the $100 million program. So we're really in a really good spot with where we're at with current, within the last 10 years, debt service, and those older bonds have now been fully paid off. And so we have $30 million is our current bond fund balance, as we had that $30 million financing that funded in May at the end of last year. And we've already, last year we spent just over $750,000 in bond expenditures already. With that, are there any questions on the AFR?
Any questions? No. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Hearing none, it does pass. Thank you, Colleen. Really appreciate it. Moving on then to it's item C, information discussion item. This is an annual bond and DAA override report.
Yes. I think it starts on 127, Brendan.
Yes.
So this is an annual requirement. We have to provide an update to the community on our current bond and DAA override expenditures, and then the very next item is going to be the M&O override annual report as well. And so just to kind of, I'll do this as quickly as I can. I broke out on the board page there, I broke out the bond between the previous $50 million bond program as it's winding down and has had some of its almost final expenditures being made, and then the new 30 million of the 100 million authorization. So you can see there we've committed 100% of that previous $50 million bond, but there's 382,000 that is still cash in the bank. It's committed to projects that are currently still in progress that haven't finished yet. As soon as those projects finish up, then that'll be fully paid out. That is currently wrapped up in one project. It's the shade / charging station project that's happening in the transportation bay. So part of that was grant funded and part of it was also funded with the bond dollars. And so we're still waiting for that project to come to completion, and then that'll be fully expended.
And I was going to ask about that. I saw that on page 132. What's the holdup on that electric bus canopy?
So the canopies are in. It's my understanding that the electrical is in, so all the pieces are there, but we're waiting on the actual. I'm not going to get this right. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
SES is like.
Okay.
Yeah.
They were waiting for that. That's like on back order or something.
Yeah, usually with in past years, we used to get that overseas where war is going on, so in Ukraine and stuff. So now they're trying to everybody in America is trying to get it here locally, and not everyone's fighting for those.
Okay.
So we had a couple of dates, they got pushed back.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be completed in the summertime.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say
Understood.
it's pretty similar to the lead time we saw, with the electric buses. Took, almost 2 years to get here. And we're right up around that 2-year mark now with lead time on this SES. But that's the final piece that's waiting. Everything else is done and it's ready to just drop in and hook it up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The current override, again, that's budgeted at 1.5 million each year, so that's generating that additional capital funds in this year's budget. Last year's expenditures from the override were just over 800,000, and we've spent to date of the override already 375,000. The attachments show the comparison to the original voter information pamphlets. That's one of the key pieces of the annual update, is just kind of going through that. So Brendan, if you want to scroll to the next page there, just kind of highlighting that $50 million bond program. You can see there at the right there in kind of that middle, how the original voter pamphlets planned out by category versus non-administrative improvements, which is, for some reason, that's the way they require that to be labeled in the voter pamphlet, but what that means is school improvements, campus improvements. And then we had student transportation buses, and then we had administrative improvements, which are here at this campus or this DO site. And you can see there at the bottom how we stuck to or deviated from the original voter pamphlet. You're allowed a 10% deviation. We were within $1,000 of the school level expenditures. The shift there, the majority of that shift between student transportation and administrative is because of what we're funding that project with, the electric bus canopies and charging stations. It was originally part of the student transportation bus budget, but because it's not an actual bus that we're buying and it's construction, it got shifted to administrative facility improvements. So that's the majority of that shift that you see there in deviation from the original pamphlets. The next page, you want to scroll quickly there, but yeah, this one just shows again the comparison of the capital override to those voter pamphlet categories as well. I know it's really, really small there, but this one is a little different. It's based on an average. So how are we spending over the life of the override, because it was a 7-year override, how is that average spending in those categories compared to the original annual budgets that were presented? And so we're right on track there too with where we're at with averages per category. The remaining attachments just kind of go through the actual expenditures. I'm not going to go through that tonight. So, but they're there. It shows the actual vendors, what the project was, and how much was spent last year between capital and bond funding as well. Are there any questions on
Any
the bond
questions?
or override?
Nope.
Okay, moving on.
Moving on.
The M&O override report. This is whereas the bond was looking at a comparison of last year and what we've spent to date in FY25. The M&O override is just looking at FY24. The one piece that I always kind of highlight, important to note, when we look at the attachment for the M&O override, if you want to go one more page, Brendan, is that the total cost of what we're funding in those areas that have gone up over the years. And so the costs actually exceed 15% of our M&O RCL, which means that we're supporting, and last year we supported over 420,000 of our base support level from M&O from the state, in addition to what the override funding generated. And we know how important all of those expenditure categories are to our student success. Any questions on the M&O override?
Question.
Not a question, but I just look at this and I'm really thankful to our community for passing these overrides. It's unfortunate that we have to do that and ask the voters for that. But there are so many districts that are unable, they don't even go out and ask their voters because they know that it is not going to get passed. And I just look at these amounts and I think about if we were a community where we could not have that, what would that look like? Like looking at, things like full day kinder, like, things like the library, art, those, all of those pieces are so important for our kids. And I couldn't imagine our schools without any of these things listed here. And, thinking about like all the building improvements that we've been able to do and the playgrounds we talked about, all of those things, like it's disheartening that we have to go out and ask for that. But, I'm just so thankful that our community is supportive of us, and that we can continue to provide these things. And, hopefully we come to a point where we don't have to go out and ask voters for more because we're fully funded by the state and the federal government. But until then, I know that when we have to go back out and ask for additional funds that, they'll continue to support. So thank you to our community.
That's right. I was just thinking the same thing, so I won't repeat it. So thank you for saying that. And thank you, Colleen, for the presentation. Hearing no other questions, we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you so much for taking so much of the rowing oar today. Moving on, we already did the bond update. So moving on to board development, I know we have the ASBA annual conference and pre-conference coming up in December, right, Lisa? So I assume let Lisa know if you want to go to that. Normally at this time we have board development. We have a discussion of our ongoing discussion about strategic plan with Dr. Robert. Not here. I thought we'd move that on to our next meeting. So with that, I will move. Go ahead.
Lisa, is there a date for, I'm not seeing it on here. It's probably on here somewhere. Is there a date for the conference for like an early bird or something to?
I think that the early bird rates end like November 1st.
Okay, thank you.
So let Lisa know in the next couple of weeks. Moving on to reflections and feedback from the meeting. I'll start with Board Member Ford.
Thank you. Before I get into the reflections on tonight's meeting, I just wanted to say thank you to all of our incredible teachers for hosting parent-teacher conferences. I don't think that, as a teacher, I look at it from a teacher's perspective, and I got very anxious knowing that our kids who are in dual language classes, those teachers have twice the amount of parent-teacher conferences that most teachers have. So where my son's teachers are hosting, 50 to 60 parent-teacher conferences, that's a lot of conferences. So I wanted to say thank you to our teachers and our staff for hosting those parent-teacher conferences, because it's so important to update parents. Even me, who has a master's degree in education, I still want to sit down with my son's teachers and find out what's going on and how I can help support. So thank you to all of our staff for connecting to our community and our families. And then I just wanted to say congratulations to our child nutrition department. The America's Healthiest School Awards, that's an incredible accomplishment. Thank you, Corey and your team, for all the hard work that you do. I love the community engagement aspect. I was lucky enough to be able to attend the first of the Blue Zone series with board member Greenberg, and I just thought it was a really cool way to tie into our community. I would ask that we continue to post those on social medias, because I love the idea of sending that out to parents first, but then also inviting our community as well. I brought my neighbor, and she had a great time. So, she's awesome. If we could post that for our community to attend as well, that would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Board Member Ramos.
Awesome. I wanted to just say that I really appreciate on our social media how for Hispanic Heritage Month there was a book recommendation every day. So thank you so much for that, which is why I wore my Celia Cruz shirt to celebrate the end of Hispanic Heritage Month. And then thank you, Longview, for bringing the Stugo students, the officers. I think it's really amazing to see our students getting involved. Even if they're a little shy, there's nothing wrong with that. We've all been there before, right? So it's really nice to know that these are hopefully our future maybe school board members or local politicians, so or even more, so that's really great to see. And then again, thank you, Corey, for showing us everything that you all have been working on. I know Leanne and I, when we were at the National School Board Association conference in April, we were bragging about our school's nutrition program, and people are jealous, so we enjoy that. But no, seriously, thank you. I really appreciate the fact that your kitchen managers are able to put in input, because they are the ones who see what the kids eat. I wish that when we were children, we had those options rather than the burritos and the plastic bags. So, it was what it was, but I'm glad our children here at Osborne have those. Thank you.
Absolutely. Board Member Greenberg.
I want to echo the jealousy, because that is true. And I've had, several district leaders from other districts that they're like, hey, how do we do that? We want to provide these great food options for our kids. So Corey, you're really popular. Don't leave us. Ever. But I do think, child nutrition is not something that's just important to Osborne. It would be awesome to find ways to partner with other districts to enhance and develop their child nutrition programs to be what ours is. Along with that, I think our social media is top notch as well. And I hear a lot of people bring that up, and they're like, hey, we want ours to look like that. So I think those are two areas that are really important. I did want to share a thank you to all of you that have taken the time to communicate with parents and students and get input on the playgrounds. I think in many ways it can be easy to just say, yep, this one looks great, and then you build it, and then the kids never use that component, or they wanted something else or whatever. And so there is, a lot of work that goes into getting that feedback, but I think it's really important. So I really appreciate all the time and effort that you all took to do that. And I'm excited to see them when they're in place.
My reflection is it's Mr. White, love the energy you bring, and I just imagine how that is at the school, and the energy that you bring to every classroom, to every student that walks in the door. You bring that same love, attention, and energy, and set the tone for that school and for your staff. And it's just great to see, great to see you giving those awards today. I just really appreciate everything you're doing at Longview. So thank you and keep it up on the. It's not always easy, I'm sure. So keep up the good work. I love talking about our bonds and our overrides. It's one of my favorite things to do as a board, because that's something that we as a board really impact. And it's something that is so much of what we do is kind of non-discretionary. We've got to do this because of the statute. We've got to do this to comply with this statute and this report. Those are all very important, and it's a very important part of our job. But when it comes to bonds and overrides, that's something that we as a board choose to put on the ballot, something as we as a board choose to ask our community, hey, will you support our schools in this way? And we haven't, we don't have to do that. It's something that this board has said is something we want to ask the community, and the community has stepped up time and again to say, yes, we want to give you that money. We trust you, board, to oversee the expenditure of that money to improve our schools and to improve our community. So I love seeing it in action, seeing things happen, ground being broken, shade going up, and all these things, and not just for the bond piece, but especially for the override. That list of items that's funded with the override, I look at that and I'm like, that's what makes us special. That's what my kids are excited about. That, and of course the lunches, and it's just, and that's what makes us uniquely Osborne. So it's so great to see, and just appreciate everybody in the community, and appreciate everybody. And I guess I gotta say, Colleen, thank you so much for stepping up. You always do. You're always so involved, and are so much a huge part of what makes these meetings run and what makes this district run. But especially when Dr. Robert, is not here. But I guess the spirit of Dr. Robert is here. I don't know. I don't know who said that earlier, but regardless, I really appreciate you stepping up as always to make sure we have a well put together agenda and a well done meeting. So thank you so much for stepping up as usual. And with that, I will go on to future agenda items. I'll start with Board Member Ford.
None from me, thank you.
Board Member Ramos.
I don't know if it's going to be for like a work study session, but I did notice that our numbers for suspensions are a little high. And so I would love for us to take a look into that and hear what the schools are doing to remedy those. Especially just really concerned seeing the numbers so high in the alcohol, tobacco, and drugs, as well as aggression incidents. So would really love for us to take a deep dive with our leaders.
That's a good one. Board Member Greenberg.
I know we started to have this conversation, but I would like to revisit cell phone policies, procedures, something, whatever that looks like. But look at that, especially now that we're a couple months into the school year. What does that look like, for our school administration? And then, I know that we're coming to the end of our current strategic plan. So I think we really need to get those dates on the calendar for when we're going to do sessions with the community. So I don't know if that's necessarily an agenda item. Maybe it is to determine those dates, but then also just to determine what are our next steps as a board when it comes to developing that strategic plan, because it's already October, and with the holidays and everything coming up, it's going to be pretty close to the second semester, and we want to have something in place so we have clear expectations of what we need to do coming for the next school year.
Yep, good one. And those are all great. And the one I would add is I want to have a discussion at some point. And I understand this is kind of a continual thing that the board does. No one on this board has had the discussion yet, but talk about bus routes, busing, and kind of, what neighborhoods get buses, what don't, what's the thought process there? What are those, I'm not even sure what to call them, busing zones? Why is one zone for this school versus that school? And maybe just look at kind of where we're at. I know those, my understanding is those get updated maybe on some sort of schedule. I don't know if it's every 5 years, every 10, as just populations move and things need to be adjusted. Just would love to have
Today
that
is National School Lunch Week, and for the first time, we serve our delicious buffalo and barbecue wings. We're gonna go to ask the kids how they like it.
Have a great night.
mean? Like, yo, I was eating lunch with them. It was not mine. It was good, for real,
I mean, these ones are okay. Like, they could use more spice.
Yeah, as you see, guys, I ate all my wings. They were very good. I can't stop eating them. I want another round. The wings are good. They add a little more flavor, but the sauce and stuff is good. So, like, they're good. The taste kind of sweet.